as those staff of Parliamentary Association of Nigeria, National Assembly chapter, who protested yesterday, have suspended their picketing till Monday, 10th of December. By then, dialogue and consultations will be ongoing. At the moment, we'll now take you straight to the Red Chamber for the proceedings of today's plenary.
For the establishment of the School of Mines and Geological Studies, Buyu, Adamawa State, establishment, etc. Bill SL 706, be presented. I so second.
Dear colleagues, those in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Abubakar, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for giving me this opportunity to lead the debate for the establishment of the School of Mines and Geological Studies in Adamawa State. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, but we need to lead a debate on this important bill that seeks for the establishment of the School of Mining and Geological Studies in Adamawa State. The bill was read for the first time in this Hallowed Chamber on 21st November 2018. Unemployment is a very serious challenge in Nigeria. Like agriculture, the mineral and mining sector has a great potential in reducing the unemployment problems we are facing. But the sector itself is facing shortages of skilled, middle, and junior manpower. The establishment of the School of Mining and Geological Studies will go a long way in providing the needed skilled manpower for the industry. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, several reform programs were introduced to improve the contribution of the mineral and mining sector to the development of Nigerian economy for the benefit of its people. They include the passage of a new Nigerian Minerals and Mining Act 2007, a Nigerian Minerals and Metal Policy 2008, the creation of a modern mining cadastre system, and the expansion in airborne mapping of the country to increase knowledge of mineral endowment, among many others. Despite these efforts, the mineral and mining sector is facing serious manpower challenges at all levels. The challenge is more serious in northern states, where there is only one institution that specializes in minerals and mining studies at Jos, the Plateau State capital. Guruk is endowed with large deposits of limestone, gypsum, and coal, among other minerals, and it is centrally located in the northeast geopolitical zone, which makes it ideal for the location of the school. The following are some of the objectives of the school: to provide courses for the training of middle and junior level manpower for the mineral and mining sector. B, to provide the required technical and managerial skill and capabilities locally to ensure a steady supply of talent required by the sector in the future. To conduct research in ways of applying and improving available mining technologies. Work with stakeholders in the mining industry for the training of their personnel. Sensitize local communities on how they can best benefit from the mineral resources in their areas. Conduct geological surveys to identify available minerals. To develop and encourage the use of sustainable mining practices. To undertake any other activities that will promote learning and research in the field of mining and geological studies, and to provide training and extension services to artisanal and small-scale miners to improve their productivity in a safe and sustainable environment. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this bill is well organized for its very own purpose of a modern academic and research institution. The objectives of the school, as articulated above, are supportive of its mission and broad vision of a modern institution that will develop world-class personnel that can sustainably manage our nation's mining sector by providing the needed expertise at the highest level. The school is therefore further advance knowledge through research and nurture unique innovations, entrepreneurship, and wealth management in its core areas of interest. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the enactment of this bill will help in transforming the mining and geological functions in Nigeria by producing the desired manpower and expertise that Nigeria is yearning for. Distinguished colleagues, the Federal Ministry of Mines and Steel Development's roadmap for the growth and development of the Nigerian mining industry has set the following targets. A, increasing the sector's contribution to the nation's GDP from the current 0.4% to at least 5% by the year 2015 and 10% by year 2020, by creating about 3 million direct and indirect jobs by 2020, achieving enhanced capacity to supply 50% of the skilled manpower required for all segments of the mineral and metal sector, facilitating the production of coal needed to fire coal-fired power plants that would contribute 30% of the nation's power generation by year 2020. These laudable targets cannot be achieved without the availability of the necessary skilled labor to work in the industry, hence the need to establish the School of Mines and Geological Studies, GUYUK. I therefore urge my distinguished colleague to support this bill aimed at establishing the Federal Schools of Mining and Geological Studies, GUYUK, and pass it into law. In line with Order 77.3 of the Senate Standing Rules, a compendium of the financial implications of the bill is attached. This establishment of this school in Guyuksa is centrally located, especially even to serve the Northeast. There are a lot of minerals and minerals in the whole of Adamawa State, Gombe State, Taraba, which is just the component state, which are their own linkages. Even the uranium in Gombe, you know, it starts from the hills in Guyuk and then went further down. I therefore please urge my distinguished colleagues to help assist the establishment of this school so that the senatorial zone, which lacks federal institutions, can have at least one institution that will serve the whole of Nigeria. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senate Deputy Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. First is to commend distinguished Senator Ahmed for this very, very important initiative. Now, one will not understand what this country is losing when we neglect to pay attention to the mineral resources that we have. There has been some very remarkable efforts under this government in the solid minerals ministry for this development. But you see, what people fail to understand is that everything is determined by law. Those who are willing to invest and in our mineral resources will equally want to be comforted by the fact that there is a statutory instrument from which they can rely upon. Mr. President, just look at the cost implication of this bill. I can tell you authoritatively, sir, the entire cost implication of this bill is what Nigeria loses per week in just provision of importation of barite. This alone, and you compare it to the cost of establishing this, then you will know that we are being penny wise, pound foolish. So I'm of the opinion that this is a very straightforward matter, that on one mineral resource alone, we are losing in 1 week the entire cost implication of this bill, sir. So what it means is that if we are able to put this in place, and I'm happy of recent, I've heard that Nasarawa State is equally doing the mapping, geophysical marking of Nasarawa State for the purpose of these minerals. And I'm telling you, sir, authoritatively, that Nasarawa alone can provide almost 10 times of this in 1 week as a saving to our economy. So I think that this is a very laudable move that should be supported by everyone. And I urge my colleagues to support the second reading of this bill. Thank you very much, sir.
Senator Moore.
Mr. President, distinguished Senator Maruko Abunwa. Mr. President, I want to join the deputy leader to commend my brother Moalaidi for this important bill. Nigeria had depended on mono economy for a very long time now. And I think the best way to go is to diversify our economy. And if we want to diversify our economy,
in the Northwest, we probably may have had a few people knowledgeable enough in the mining of lead, and we wouldn't have had such a catastrophic death rate of improper mining of lead in Zamfara State. I think this goes without saying that it's a very timely decision to ensure that the federal government establishes a school of mines in the Northeast. And maybe another one too, planned for Northwest, so that they can specialize in certain minerals specific to those locations and areas, and promoted in such a way that the skills so acquired will be useful in promoting mining practices in these particular sectors. I think this is a very timely bill. I support it wholeheartedly, and I encourage my colleagues to do so and pass this bill for second reading. Thank you.
Is there any person against this bill? Okay, so I know it's a bill everybody would like to contribute to. I want to appeal to all of us that we reserve our comment and probably send some of our contributions to the committee when eventually it's sent to the committee. This is, colleagues, I think this bill is very important, especially now that we are looking at the possibility of devolution of powers. Because once we're able to have solid minerals in the concurrent list, I'm sure there are more activities, both at the state and federal level, on matters concerning solid minerals. I'm sure this will help to not only diversify economy, but also boost the economy itself. And there's therefore the need to have necessary manpower to deal with this potential economic activity, if we're able to get the solid mineral sector moved to the concurrent list. So I believe that the interest we have shown on this bill today is a reflection of the need for us to ensure that we have the necessary manpower in order to deal with the issue of solid minerals going forward. So on this note, esteemed colleagues, I'd like to put the question. Those in support that this bill be raised second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for establishment of School of Mines and Geological Studies GUIUC, Adamawa State, and for other matters connected therewith, 2018, second reading.
Dear colleagues, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the School of Mines and Geological Studies GUIUC, Adamawa State, and for other matters connected therewith, 2018, second reading taken, and now referred to the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund.
President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth order of the day is second reading of the Federal Colleges of Education Act, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, the 14th of March, 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Jibril Barau to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Jibril Barau.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Barau Jibril. I represent Kano North in this August Senate. Mr. President, I stand to move to read for the second time a bill for an act to repeal the Federal College of Education Act 1986 and to reenact Federal College of Education and other related matters 2018 SB 562. Mr. President, I so move.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, this is the lead debate on a bill for an act to repeal the Federal College of Education Act 1986 and to reenact the Federal College of Education and other related matters 2018 SB 562. You may recall, Mr. President, that the Senate Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund organized a roundtable on the legislative agenda for tertiary institutions at the beginning of the 8th Senate. Presentation at the roundtable reviewed major positive changes that occurred in higher education in Africa and around the world and provided examples of actions taken by some countries in order to reflect the changes in the national legislative documents. Participants unanimously recommended that the Senate should enact new laws and revise the existing enabling acts of all the tertiary institutions and the sector's regulatory agencies. This is one of the bills in this respect. The bill seeks to amend the act establishing the Federal College of Education in Nigeria to accommodate present colleges and their proper localities, and also mandate colleges to award degrees of their own while not changing their names to universities of education, such as Teachers College Columbia. Approval to be granted by the regulatory agency. The approval for the degree award should be, when the law is passed, be given by the regulatory agency governing these institutions. Also, to make tenure of provosts of colleges of education to be the same as the tenure of vice chancellors in our universities, which is one term of 5 years for every provost as applicable to the vice chancellor of each university in Nigeria, as well as registrars, bursars, and librarians in college of education to stay a tenure of 5 years, as well as provost of college of education to have 2 deputies, 1967. One to be deputy provost academic and another deputy provost administration. Also, make conditions of service in the college of education to be at par with those of the universities, since staff of both systems are discharging similar functions. Example, in professional requirements, promotion criteria, disciplinary measures, welfare packages, and so on and so forth, including academic staff of colleges rising to the highest possible rank in the academic sector, which is being a professor. So the intent is that a lecturer in a college of education can rise to be a professor, unlike what is presently applicable in this college of education. And to also generally reform teacher education by instituting measures to change the caliber of inputs and candidates that go into being trained as teachers in our college of education, and universities by granting them scholarships, bursaries, or free tuition and maintenance allowance for these students in our tertiary institutions. In view of the above, sir, my distinguished colleagues, I urge you all to support the passage of this bill in view of its importance in taking our educational level to next level. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, Senator Binta.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Binta Masi Garba, representing Adamawa North Senatorial Zone of Adamawa State. I am in total support of this bill. Fortunately, I was the chair of this committee when we had the round table. And the essence of having the round table is to look at the decay in the educational sector and to see how we can condense the differential between degree holders and that of the HNDs and the NCEs. And at the end of it all, the conclusion was that there are supposed to be a kind of harmonization where those that are in the polytechnic and colleges of education can have a BSc either in technical or in education, so that the dichotomy between the BSc and the HND can be the things of the past. But in the submission of the chairman now, there's one area that I'm not a little bit comfortable with towards the last submission of his, when he said a case for establishing the Teachers Education Fund. Now I was thinking, because of the TED Fund, which obviously we're supposed to look into critically the act of the TED Fund, and I know that most of the essence of it all is that the distribution formula on the finances that is within the TED Fund is being given to the 3 tiers, the tripod institution. But now coming up with the establishment of the Teachers Education Fund, again, we'll have to look at it critically, or probably we need to get more information on that. But apart from that, I think it is pertinent that we ought to support this bill without wasting much time on it. I thank you very much, Mr. President.
Senator Gumel.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Abdullah Gumel. I come from Jigawa, North of Jigawa State. Mr. President, I like to support this bill. It's very laudable and it's very timely. This bill, if it passes, it will reduce the movement from the Federal College of Education's lecturers to the universities. So, in effect, it will make the lecturers of the Federal College of Education to stay in their respective colleges and finish their professional careers up to professor level. And for this, Mr. President, the colleges of education, because we are yearning for the teacher training, and that particular discipline of teacher training, if we transcend our colleges of education, it will produce the professional teachers from primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions as real professional teachers. So, Mr. President, I think this bill is laudable, is timely, and I think I urge the distinguished senators to support this bill. Thank you, sir.
Is anybody against this bill? Okay. Distinguished colleagues, I think this bill is set forward as essentially to unify the academic and administrative structures of the federal colleges of education and also align them with those of the universities. I believe that this will help to attract high-level manpower at that level of our education and also provide more qualitative education to our people. So on this note, dear colleagues, those support that this bill be read second time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of Senate. Dear colleagues, a bill for an act to repeal the Federal Colleges of Education Act 1986.
Chamber on Thursday, the 19th of April 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Stella Odwa to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear colleagues, my name is Senator Stella Adeze Odwa. I represent Anambra North. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate of today's very important bill for the establishment of Federal University of Aquatic Studies. This bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chambers on the Thursday, 13th April 2018. It seeks to establish the Federal University of Aquatic Studies and comprehensive provision for its due management and administration. Mr. President, dear colleagues, the very essence of this bill is to provide a highly specialized institution that will disseminate knowledge related to the development of aquatic education and undertake research and foster relationships with other institutions across the country in areas of aquaculture, fishery science, fishery hydrographic, fishery engineering, aquatic ecosystem, fish farming, fishery management, fishery biology, wild fishery, ocean fishery, etc. The objects of the University of Aquatic Studies, amongst others, include A, to encourage the advancement of learning and to hold out to all persons without distinction of race, creed, sex, or political conviction. B, to develop and offer academic and professional programs leading to the award of certificates, first degrees, postgraduate research, diploma, and higher degrees with emphasis on planning, development, and adaptive skills in aquatic education technology. It will also have applied science, agriculture, commerce, arts, social science, humanities, management, and allied professional disciplines. C, it will collaborate with other national and international institutions that are involved in training, research, development of education with a view to promoting governance, leadership, and management skills in aquatic and marine resources. D, it will provide higher education and foster a systemic advancement of aquatic studies. D, it will provide for instructions in such branches of aquatic education as it may deem necessary to make provision for research, advancement, and dissemination of knowledge in such manner as it may determine. It will also provide aquatic value chain issues in this country and elsewhere in Africa. It will aim to provide subjects that relate to social, cultural, economic, scientific, and technological aspects of aquatic studies and agribusiness. It will also provide services that will extend through consultancy to aquatic-related activities in order to foster relationships with other persons and institutions. It will further develop distance learning models for aquatic-related courses in other higher institutions. Mr. President, dear colleagues, our aquatic sector has a very high potential and requires a very high level of technical and scientific knowledge to drive it. This university, when approved, will therefore further advance the knowledge through research and nurture unique innovations in aquatic science. In all modesty, Mr. President, I wish to submit that the establishment of this university is therefore a very giant step in the right direction and a major milestone in the history of legislation in Nigeria. Mr. President, dear colleagues, the enactment of this bill will help in transforming the aquatic sector in Nigerian economy towards producing the needed technology in aquatic-related industries. In line with our Senate Order 773, the compendium of financial implication, Mr. President, is hereby attached. I urge you, my dear colleagues, to kindly support this bill for the second reading. Mr. President, I hereby submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kofi.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Umar Ibrahim, representing Kaduna Central. I rise to support this very, very important bill. Let me start by congratulating Princess Rola for presenting this very, very important bill. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, this is a very rare bill which we have in this chamber because it involves highly specialized institutions that will determine knowledge of related development in aquatic education. This is education now which actually we hardly have. So a university of this at least will attract all the students we have where there is aquatic, where we have a lot of water. There are so many states where there is water, but actually we don't even have a place where we will go and read and learn how to improve on that and how to make a lot of use of it. So, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, this is an area that we need to make a serious investment so that at least we will have more employment with this. And more importantly, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, when I look at the cost, I discover that the cost for this university is very modest. It's just in the region of 1.1 billion. So I think this is a very straightforward bill. And I request my colleagues and Mr. President to please kindly support this bill. I so submit, sir.
Very well, thank you. Is anybody against the bill? Is anybody against the bill? All right, thank you, Senator Odua. Dear colleagues, I think in line with our decision to ensure opportunities for our children to have qualitative education and have available schools for them to pursue their career, I'd like to congratulate Senator Odua for bringing this bill, especially now that we're focusing on specialized schools. So on this note, I would like to put the question. Those in support that this bill be read second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act provide for the establishment of Federal University of Aquatic Studies, Ogbaru, Anambra State, and for other matters connected therewith. 2018, second reading.
Dear colleagues, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal University of Aquatic Studies, Ogbaru, Anambra State, and for other matters connected therewith. 2018, second reading taken, and now referred to the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund to report back within 4 weeks. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the 8th order of the day, second reading of the National Commission for Colleges of Education Act Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, the 14th day of March 2018. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Jibrin Barau to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Jibrin Barau.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand to move that a bill on an act to repeal the National Commission of College of Education, Act Number 3 of 1989, and to establish the National Commission for Teacher Education and other related matters 2018 SB 561 be read the second time. I so move, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
President, for giving me the express permission to go ahead. This is a lead debate on a bill for an act to repeal the National Commission of Colleges of Education Act Number 3 of 1989 and to establish the National Commission for Teacher Education and other related matters 2018 SB 561. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it is my honor and privilege to lead the debate on this important bill. We all know that education is the bedrock of every modern society. The existence of a sound and robust educational system in any country is predicated on the availability of sound teachers at all levels. Hence, the need to focus on the teacher education subsector to upgrade the existing regulatory laws. The bill seeks to reposition the institutions offering teacher education programs at all levels in Nigeria by bringing them under one regulatory agency to make for proper and holistic coordination and implementation of policies vis-a-vis the nation's teacher education needs. This call for change of name of the regulatory agency, that is the National Commission for Colleges of Education, NCCE, to National Commission for Teacher Education, NCTE, and to establish Teacher Education Fund to cater for the myriads of problems and issues in teacher education in Nigeria. Mr. President, sourcing could be 1% of the consolidated revenue fund or certain percentage of third fund. And to as well clarify and specify the tenure of the executive secretary in the Act and to be same as that of executive secretary of NUC, which is 5 years and renewable for another 5 years, and to further clarify and specify conditions of service for staff in terms of promotion requirements, age of retirement, disciplinary measures, and other welfare packages, stroke fringe benefits. In view of the above, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I urge you all to support the passage of this bill so that our educational system can be taken to the next level. Mr. President, I so submit.
All right, thank you, Senator Ali Sabi.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I am Dr. Aliu Sabi Abdullahi. I represent Niger North Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, let me commend my brother and colleague for this very beautiful piece of legislation, which is actually to complement the earlier one we have actually approved, saying that we should amend the Teachers Education Act. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to submit that this action by the Senate clearly can be situated within the context of what we want to see our country achieving in terms of quality and sound education. The issue of education in Nigeria today is definitely in need of very urgent interventions, such as in this particular bill. And little wonder, just recently, the federal government has declared a state of education emergency in the educational sector. And I want to say that supporting this particular bill is the right step in the right direction. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it is a known fact that globally today, we are moving towards a knowledge-driven economy, which means you must have very sound educational system where our children, youth, and even the elderly are continuously renewing their knowledge and their skills. And it is a known fact today that countries that have put their eggs or put their resources where they are able to impart sound education and skills to their citizens are able to do well in terms of their GDP. So this is a very, timely and apt bill, very straightforward, which is actually, like the chairman said, going to take our education to actually the next level that we all desire it to be. With this, Mr. President, I want to urge my colleagues, it's a straightforward bill, and it is complementing the one we have earlier passed. I urge you to support this as I second the reading of this bill for the second time. Thank you.
All right. I'll now put the question. Dear colleagues, those in support that this bill will be taken second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Lack of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to repeal the National Commission for Colleges of Education Act No. 3 of 1989 and to establish the National Commission for Teacher Education and other related matters 2018, second reading.
Very distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to repeal the National Commission for Colleges of Education Act No. 3 of 1989 and to establish the National Commission for Teacher Education and other related matters 2018, second reading taken, and refer to the Committee on Tertiary Institution and Third Fund to report back within 4 weeks. Mr. Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the ninth order of the day is the second reading of the Historic Sites and Preservation Protection Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, the 22nd of June 2016. Mr. President, may we invite Senator Shehu Sani to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time. Distinguished Senate President, Senator Shehu Sani has requested that we stand down the consideration of this bill till another legislative day. He still needs to do some legislative work on this bill. So I move that we stand down the consideration of this bill till another legislative day. I say move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion as well.
Dear colleagues, those in support of the motion that this particular item is stood down to another legislative day say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. It's nearly done.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the 10th order of the day is second reading of the Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria Act Cap A7 LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2018. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, the 6th of April 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Omar Kurfi to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Omar Kurfi.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. My name remains Senator Omar Kurfi, representing Katsina Central. I rise to move this bill. Let me start by saying that I wish to express my sincere appreciation for the opportunity to lead the debate on this very important bill, which seeks to repeal the Advertising Practitioner Registration Act and an act that advertising practitioner, an act for the establishment of the Council for Advertising Practitioners as an apex regulatory authority with the Nigerian Advertising Company. They made provision for the regulation and control of the practice of professional and business advertising to ensure the protection of the general public and consumers, promote local content while entrenching the international practice and related matters. This bill is modeled primarily on a modern and progressive international best practice worldwide, as stated for the first time in the chamber of this day on 6 April 2017. One of the reasons of addressing the advertising registration at this time is the change in international best practices, the landscape, and underlying equal importance for the advertising of all levels of business. The Act, having been through several years of socio-political and economic changes, is replete with many inadequate shortcomings. Some of these defects include: 1. Lack of legal personality in the upcoming Act. The provision of Section 1 of this Act did not create the advertising practitioner succession and common seal and may sue and be sued in corporate name. The Council can now acquire legal rights, hold mortgage, purchase and deal with property. The repeal cures the apparent lacuna in the law. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, our overplating of board members and excessive discretionary powers on the Minister of the Appointment of Board Members, Section 2 of 2 Principal Act provides for 20 board members, and the Minister is empowered to appoint 9 board members without clearly sitting on precondition of that appointment. It gives the Minister the powers both to set the rules and the standard for appointment, or also make the appointment, thereby creating a room for an equal representation of relevant stakeholders needed as the possibility of the abuse power. The bill successfully stated a more legal and logical rationale for appointment of the board members. My colleagues, my chairman, my distinguished colleagues, lack of provision of the structure and staff of the Council. The effective administration is imperative that the Council be structured into an operational department as the tenure of this executive and accounting officer for explicitly stated in the legal framework. This is conspicuously missing from the Act. The mode of appointment of staff is now captured in the bill, just like any other legal body. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, lack of tenure of office and allowances for board members. Section 2 of the Principal Act provides for the composition of membership of the board. However, the tenure of office and payment allowances are conspicuously absent from the provision of the Act. Hence, the new law seeks to cure such defect. This is intended to regulate the operation of the board. Further, lack of definite timetable in the Council budget preparation. The Act gave the executive power to the Minister in the preparation and submission of Council's budget. This is provided in Section 6 of the principle. The powers of the minister may be abused since he has the discretion to extend the time substitution of expenditure. This is secured in the current bill by providing timeline within which budget must be submitted by the minister. I further say that lack of provision of registration and regulation of individual and corporate bodies engaged in advertising. The essence of registration and regulation of advertising is to ensure that adverts are legal, decent, honest, truthful, prepared with sense of social responsibility, and created with due respect to the rules of fair competition. However, provisions for registration and revocation of a license granted to corporate bodies are lacking in the Act, Clause 20 of the bill, makes provision for the registration and regulation of the individual and firms engaged in the advertising. This is a removal provision as no criminal approach exists in the existing Act. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, no provision for regulatory standard and environment. The existing Act lacks provision for setting standard for regulation by all government agencies. Consequently, this has resulted in multiple regulation and taxes. In addition, there is no provision for a national plan for beautification of the environment, particularly the highways and roads, to ensure safety and environmental sustainability of advertising. See Clause 6 of the bill. This implication is here that the new law content of the situation where the course of the advertisement, beautification, and environment must be maintained. This aspect is completely absent in the existing Act. Further, lack of provision for research and development fund is the Act. This is an important alternative source of revenue to promote and encourage international best practice in the advertising sector. However, they are not provided for the Act. Hence, the collection of the agency will amount to illegality. This is intended to open more independent sources of revenue for the advertising sector. Mr. President, my distinguished colleague, there is equally a lack of provision for appeal against license revocation, enforcement, issuance of self-display order, compensation payable for revocation of advertising license, timely fulfillment of compensation, and limitation of suit against the council are not provided in the Act. This is intended to cure the mischief created by Section 27 of the Act. Mr. President, sir, my distinguished colleague, further, the penalties of the process are provided in Section 20 of the Act and not in line with current economic realities. The bill brings such penalty in tandem with international best practices. This bill is an attempt to address the lacuna in the existing Act by making broad and more comprehensive provision for the effective regulation, monitoring, and supervision of the advertising provisions in Nigeria. Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, I therefore urge you to give this bill much needed support to replace the Act and enact a new one to address all these observed shortcomings in this regime. I so submit. Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Lidani.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Joshua Lidani, representing from the South. I would like to first of all commend my good friend, Senator Kurfi, for bringing up this bill, which seeks to cure the legal shortcomings in the existing bill. It is very clear that the existing bill has several defects, the notable of which is the lack of capacity, legal capacity of the Advertising Practitioners Council, which is the main body in charge of regulating advertisement in this country. For a body like that not to have the legal capacity to sue or to be sued is a very major defect in the law. Plus, there are other areas of shortcomings that have been mentioned, the overbearing powers that have been given to the minister to appoint so many board members, in which case the minister will have influence on the board to the detriment of the functions and objectives of the council itself. Because of the number of amendments, it is better not to seek to amend the bill, but to repeal the existing bill in order to enact a fresh one, so that you now have an opportunity of looking at the bill wholesale instead of looking at it piecemeal, taking the old bill, then comparing it with the new amendments that are proposed. It's better it's contained in the same bill by repealing the existing one and replacing it with a new one. I urge my colleagues to support this bill because it's very important in the conduct of business. Thank you.
All right, any person against the bill? Okay. Dear colleagues, no support that this bill will be taken second time. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Lack of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to repeal the Advertising Practitioners Registration, etc. Act and enact the Advertising Practitioners Registration Licenses, etc. to provide for the establishment of a council for advertising practitioners and for other matters connected therewith, 2018, second reading.
Dear colleagues, a bill for an act to repeal the Advertising Practitioners Registration, etc. Act and enact the Advertising Practitioners Registration, Licensing, etc. 2018 to provide for the establishment of a council for advertising practitioners and for other matters connected therewith, 2018, second reading taken, and refer to a committee on information to report back within 4 weeks. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues,
When we were doing this thing, there was
because the chairman, Senator Suleiman Nazir, is not available, I move that we stand down the consideration of the 11th order of the day till another legislative day. The PDP is lost. There's nobody.
What kind of fever?
We can hear you one, please.
Any person can move you can second the motion. Leader, you can second the motion. Dear colleagues, those in support of the motion that will stand down this item to another legislative, they say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senate Leader, go ahead.
Which motion?
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the 12th order of the day is the consideration of the ad hoc committee report on the promissory note program and the bond issuance to settle inherited local debts and contractual obligations. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Francis Alimekena, the Deputy Chief Whip of the Senate, to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report of the committee.
Senator Francis Alimekena.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Francis Alimekena, representing the good people of Edo North. Mr. President, I rise to move that the Senate will receive and consider the report of ad hoc committee on promissory note program and a bond issuance to settle inherited local debt and contractual obligation on refer to state government claims in export expansion grant EEG scheme and contractors liability as so move.
Senator Shinstani.
Senator Shehu Kaduna Central, I stand to second that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the ad hoc committee on promissory note program and a bond issuance to settle inherited local debts and contractual obligations on refund to state government claims, export expansion grant scheme, and contractors' liability submitted to the Senate. I so second.
This is because you don't support that the Senate do not consider this report. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Francis Alimekena. You can still just go to the findings and then the recommendations.
Mr. President, let me submit the report first.
No.
can lay the report. If you laid, has it been laid before? Was it laid before? No, you can lay it then. You can proceed.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Francis Alimikena, representing the good people of Edo North. Mr. President, this is a report on the Hardware Committee on Promissory Note Program and a bond issuance to settle inherited local debt and contractual obligations on referral to state government claim in export expansion grant, EEG scheme, and contractors' liability. Introduction. The Senate at its sitting on Wednesday night, May 2018, considered the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the establishment of a promissory note program and a bond issuance to settle local debts and contractual obligations, and thereafter constituted an Hardware Committee for further legislative action. Members of the committees are on page 1. Background on page 2. So, findings on page 4. After exhaustive deliberation of the submissions and presentation by the state beneficiaries and EEC scheme and contractors, and Hardware Committee made the following findings. A. Most of the federal highways were at stake of disrepair before the state intervention. Inspections were carried out by the Federal Ministry of Power Works and Housing on all roads completed by the states and ascertained the quality of work done. C. Export Expansion Grant Scheme is an incentive policy program of the federal government of Nigeria with the aim of supporting active exporters in expanding their businesses. EEG aids in the diversification of the Nigerian economy as it is designed to complement the giant stride of non-oil exporters, particularly those that are in the agro-ally industry. Beneficiaries of EEG scheme have not been paid since 2007 up to the compilation period in 2016 and 2017 or thereafter. The backlog in disbursement of EEG claims has seriously affected the liquidity strength of most of the companies, which has resulted in difficulties of loan repayment and meeting employers' obligations. The total of 144 companies were submitted by the executive as beneficiaries of the EC scheme, with a total liability of 350,053 billion. Out of the total number of companies submitted in EC scheme, 269 were fully cleared and verified by the Hardware Committee, with a total clear payment of 193,104,848,216.24 kobo. The beneficiaries yet to be cleared did not forward their key documents and detailed information as requested by the committee. A total number of 2101 billion were submitted by the executive. The contractor that appeared before the committee justified their claim by presenting all supporting documents, including evidence of payment received. Recommendation. The Senate do approve a promissory note program and bond issuance in the sum of 102,297,724 098.24 as a refund to states for projects executed on behalf of the federal government as follows. Delta State 67,982,381,701.28 and Taraba State 34,315,325,396.96 kobo. The Senate do approve a promising new program and a bond issuance in sum of 43,586,007,252.69 as payment to contractors' liability as detailed below. Cetaco 37,432,400,00. Boe's Nigeria Limited 4,636,815,482.20 kobo. Smithia and International Company 346,191,766.49. Dara Homes and Agency Limited 210,600,000. Limited Nigeria Limited 960 million naira. That the Senate do approve a promising new program and a bond issuance in the total sum of 193,042,846,216.24 to clear the outstanding claims of the verified 269 companies. That is the beneficiary of the Export Expansion Grant Scheme as detailed below in page 7, on page 7, page 8, the number of the companies, page 9, page 10, page 11, and page 12, and part of page 13. Conclusion, Mr. President, the Civil College, the Alcohol Committee sincerely expresses appreciation to the Senate leadership and the entire Senate for the opportunity to serve in this capacity. I so move, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. This report is a product of a detailed work we did. And clarifications has to be made in the sense that these figures were prepared by the Federal Ministry of Finance and sent to us. And all we did was to invite the companies to verify and ascertain these claims. Now, we need to understand that this has been outstanding for a very long time. Contractors, manufacturers, importers, and exporters have been held down as a result of the inability of the government to prepare and settle this promissory note. This report brings an end to a long period of wait and the stagnation these companies have faced, and the very fact that thousands and hundreds of thousands of Nigerians were employed by these companies, and many of them have been laid off as a result of non-payment. So this Senate and this report will do good to the Nigerian industry and to also the economy of the country. So I urge on my colleagues to look at the details and also see the positive implication of this payment in terms of the company's ability to perform and also to retain thousands of workers that have been under their employment. Thank you very much.
Unless there's only person who has any major problem, we'll go to the recommendations. Okay. All right. Yes.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. Yes, I quite agree that the state should be refunded, because of the job they have executed. Particularly, the state government should be paid, but maybe we should pay them after election, so that the money will not be used. for election purposes. No, but if you look at page 4, page 4, subsection F, the backlog in disbursement of EEG claims has seriously affected the liquidity strength and most of the companies, which has resulted in difficulty of no repayment and limited employee stabilization. I just want to say that EEG, which is Export Expansion Grant, is only to serve as incentive to the companies. Then why should the companies say that they cannot repay the loan they have taken simply because that 10% is not given to them as an incentive? So I think that is not we look at some of these things. I don't agree with that.
The Bacha.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. Mine is more of a commendation on the Ali McKenna-led committee, because actually Taraba ought to have come in the first batch, but owing to challenges of correspondence, so submissions were made late. I want to appreciate it because this lack of payment to these companies had actually hampered them, because the funds the state raised to pay these contractors had actually affected development at the grassroots. So I want to thank you very sincerely, and I believe the payment of this promissory note will go a long way to enhance development at the rural areas. We thank you very much.
Senator Gamade.
Senator Babas Gamade, I represent Benue Northeast. Mr. President, I wish to commend the committee for doing a good job regarding promissory notes for jobs that are done. And it's very good that contractors be paid so that even the state concerned can go forward and do more work. By referring to the EEG Export Expansion Grant, I believe that this particular item should be reconsidered by the committee, and information brought to this Senate regarding how much export has been promoted by the grants issued by government in this way. Because it is so, subsumed in the fact that we are all so enthusiastic about expansion of export. We don't even know how much a company that took $7 billion to promote export, how much have they exported? And what has been the income to the nation? We know that there has been a huge amount of fraud around this export expansion grant, and we should not just push things unnecessarily. We should isolate this particular item, put the question to pass those other debts of federal government by way of promissory notes, and return this one so that further information can be brought to us regarding the quantum of income based on these grants that have been issued to these contractors. That is my position, sir.
We have a lot of items still remaining. Let's just go to recommendations, then we vote the way we please. Distinguished colleagues, recommendation 1, that Senate Duke approve a promissory note program and bond issuance in the sum of 102,297,724,098 naira and 24 kobo as refund to the states for projects executed on behalf of the federal government as follows: Delta State 7,982,398,701,028 kobo, and Taraba State 34,315,325,396 naira 96 kobo. Those in support of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 2. The Senate to approve a promise.
This is where we'll round off today's live broadcast of Senate plenary. At the moment, the Senate has passed 6 bills for second reading, and most of these bills are bills seeking to establish tertiary institutions. One of them include the bill for an act to establish School of Mines and Geological Studies in Adamawa State, while the Senate has also passed bill for second reading to repeal the Federal Colleges of Education Act and to reenact Federal Colleges of Education and other related matters. Well, at the moment, the Senate is considering the request by Mr. President on the promissory notes and and the request to settle inherited local debts and contractual obligations to states. It's at this point I will now hand you over to our studios for the continuation of the scheduled programs for the day. I am Ignatius Nko, and on behalf of the Outside Broadcast crew, enjoy the rest of your day.
I'm from Delta Stick Company. At that 2005, the company was privatized. Those that were working, that were caught up with the privatization, were laid off. No arrangement for the payment of anything. They were denied their pension rights. So in 2005 through 2017, we have been struggling how we can be put back on pension. We staged a lot of demonstrations, under the rain, under the sun. The government did not listen. The marginalization for the past 13 good years by successive administration, the sufferings we'll be going through, the loss of human dignity and no hope for livelihood from July 31st, 2018. The monthly pensions start coming to the pensioners. We also want to be very, very thankful to President Muhammadu Buhari. He's God sent.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem frontally through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Issues in the sports sector remain one of the most debated among Nigerians due to the passion, followership, government involvement, impact on Nigeria's external image and our national life in the sports parliament. The NTA offers Nigerians deep views on issues with experts in the sports sector, offering in-depth analysis, hindsight, insight and foresight towards elevating Nigerian sports to the zenith on the floor of the sports parliament.
The benefits that accrued in school sports, it is the bedrock of any nation.
A few Nigerians wanted the status quo to continue. So I don't think we should put all Nigerians and say Nigerians don't follow the trend, because the smart ones, we are following the trend.
The National Sports Lottery Fund, shrouded in secrecy.
The fact that the Super Eagles played an NTA, not only NTA, no Nigerian broadcaster, in fact, no broadcaster anywhere in the world from our records was able to bring that match. It's a matter of concern.
Issa Hayatu was president for 29 years. He lost the election in Addis, and that's it. He's gone.
Sports Parliament, a unique platform for sports discussions, showing live on the NTA, Thursdays at 11 p.m. Keep a date with the parliamentarians.
The eyes have it.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem frontally through revival of agriculture.
30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.